Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Bonsoir.
We're going to give everybody a few more minutes. It's good to see everybody. So it all started about a year ago this coming Sunday. A year ago this coming Sunday, we held a Lafayette Bicentennial event in Leesburg, Virginia. And at that event was a very interesting fife and drum corps from Paul Sixth High School. And we were very interested. They were very talented. They had some very, very interesting instruments. But the most important thing we thought was the young man that was kind of the leader of the fife and drum. And the other thing we found interesting was the white uniforms that they were wearing. So we called over the young man, and it happened to be Roy, and we asked him about the uniform. He told us about it. And at that moment, Doug handed both me and Elise Forrester, who was with me that day, his business card. So then it was Mark Schneider was working that event, and Mark Schneider went to lunch, and we were talking about a young Lafayette, and we came back from lunch, and we saw Roy doing a fencing expedition, taking like a fencing class in his uniform, and we spoke to his father, and we said, "What if we were to make Roy a Lafayette interpreter?" And at that point, his father, Doug, told us we would be making his dreams come true. So we sat down with his father, both Elise and I, and we talked to Doug, and then we brought Roy over and we started pitching the idea to him. And then Mark Schneider came over and sat with us and talked to him about it. And the rest basically is history. Literally about a month later, Roy did his first performance for the American Friends of Lafayette, and Roy will be our young Lafayette in 2027. That does not mean we will not be using other Lafayettes. For instance, Mark Schneider is our Lafayette in Yorktown Day this year. Mark Schneider is going to be our Lafayette many, many times in the future. And Mark Schneider will always be our dedicated Lafayette. But Mark Schneider is not 19. So we needed to come up with somebody that was 19 years old. And that is Roy Wulf. I want to give tonight's the honor of
Thank you.
interviewing Roy to Elise Forrester, because Elise was there that day, and she's responsible for this discovery that we had. Roy has played Lafayette several times between the last time we saw him. He's taking equestrian lessons, many, many things. But I'm not going to speak any longer. I'm going to bring up, hold on one second. I'm going to bring up Elise, and I'm going to bring up Roy, and I'm going to ask them to take it away.
I'm going to look down and say hi, like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's special presentation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with all of the members of AFL. As a community, we know the history of the Marquis inside out. We know the maps, the letters, the monumental legacy he left behind. But tonight, we're going to look at his journey through a completely fresh lens. We're here to introduce our new Lafayette reenactor, who'll be bringing the historic 1777 timeline to life step by step on the very sites where history was made. To embody a 19-year-old Gibert, you need someone with a rare set of skills. Our guest tonight is a student who brings a powerful combination of acting training, a deep musical background, and an emerging equestrian experience to the role. The exact physical tools needed to master the posture, the voice, and the saddle of an 18th century French noble. Tonight, we want to give you a behind the scenes look at his preparation, his artistic process, and his personal development as he steps into these legendary boots, which I think there's some of them behind him right there. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Roy Wulf, our young Marquis de Lafayette. A little hello. Thank you very much. Yay. So, Roy, before we dive into the details, as a quick icebreaker to our members, could you share with us one surprising or little known fact about Lafayette that you've discovered recently that truly caught your imagination?
Well, as everyone here knows, there are just many, many really fun anecdotes and little known facts about Lafayette. But one I discovered recently was in France. I had the opportunity to do a dramatic reading of a quote from Common Sense by Thomas Paine in French. It was for a celebration of the Declaration of Independence and his journey throughout history. And I discovered that there's actually a connection between Lafayette and Thomas Paine because actually they worked together during the French Revolution. And Lafayette entrusted something very valuable to Thomas Paine, and that was the key to the Bastille and a drawing of the Bastille to be brought to Washington. Because as we know, Lafayette was in charge of the dismantling of the Bastille. And but actually, Paine was so busy in France, he was so involved in the French Revolution, that he gave this key to another American, and that was John Rutledge Jr., and then he gave it then to Washington. The Bastille key is on display at Mount Vernon, and when I was at the Chateau de Chavignac, I discovered a matching one that's there as well. But it would be cool if both were displayed, I think, in a matching glass case on both sides of the Atlantic. The drawing, I've heard it also survives, but it's in private hands, and it was sold for about $2 million. There are facts about Lafayette's life, biographical details, but then there are these fun details about his relationship with other notable people of the time, and it's fun to imagine them interacting with each other.
Wow, I think the key is key. So now our members understand the significance of Lafayette's Huguenot motto, his indomitable why not spirit. So Roy, as a student and an actor taking on such a massive historical figure, I have to ask you, what personal Huguenot moment led you to take on this demanding role? And what was your initial reaction when you realized you'd be portraying Lafayette, not on a traditional stage, but live on the very soil where these events actually took place?
Well, as was mentioned, Elise, you were there, and Chuck and Mark, for my Curnon moment almost exactly 1 year ago. And that was on August 9th in 2024 in Leesburg. And what's really fun is that it was 250 years and 1 day after Lafayette's own Curnon moment in Metz, when he met with the Duke of Gloucester at the famous dinner with his regiment. And having that point in time, that helps me to situate the timeline, to kind of overlay events in Lafayette's life over my own life. But what's interesting is I recall, that day I was already wearing a French uniform. This was a passion that I had already had, and so it's truly a realization of my dreams. I had started a fife and drum corps, and I'm still involved. This week I've been helping out at the Pops Camp, which is our summer camp for music. It's a fife and drum corps that honors the role of France and Spain in the American Revolution. And also, I was very involved in high school in acting and theater. But to tell you the truth, it was often because there was some historical part, some historical character that I could portray. My very first theater show was when I was about in third grade, and I tried out to be Michael Banks in Mary Poppins. And yes, there's there's all the glamour of yes, you're on stage, but I was so happy to be embodying this kid in 1911. And even when we had the show at high school was The Crucible, I basically said in my audition sheet, I'll just take any role, but because I just really wanted to dress like it's 1692 and to embody a historical character. I did lots of living history for many different eras. I portrayed a powder monkey sailor on the USS Constellation in Baltimore. So this chance to portray young Lafayette is similar to things I've been doing in my life, but the difference is, I would say, the magnitude and the importance of the role. And I just can't imagine a better historical individual to be asked to portray, and turning down such an amazing offer would be simply unthinkable. My reaction was that this is what I love to do, but also it's to do this on a massive, unimaginable scale. So I remain greatly honored, and I feel extremely fortunate.
Well, they are big boots to fill, that's for sure. So in 1777, Lafayette was balancing his immense aristocratic pride with a deep, humble desire to learn from George Washington. It was a complex dynamic. So, how has your acting training helped you find that balance, especially when preparing to interact with the public who might expect history, but get a real nuanced person?
As for the acting side of things, the role of being a living historian, embodying this historical character, is you're not just an actor, but you're oftentimes your own script writer and your own costumer. And then with acting, when you interact with the public in character, it is really improvisational acting often, using knowledge that you already have and then presenting that as this historical character would answer. You answer not how you yourself would answer them, but rather I think how Lafayette might answer them if you were alive and talking to this person, giving what I know about Lafayette. And so my acting experience has certainly helped me. And for example, I recognize the importance of delivering dialogue, delivering the words in order to convey Lafayette's passion, seriousness, personal charm, and the way that the words are said and delivered is really just as important as the words themselves. And with the very best living historians, when you encounter them, I have left with this feeling that I've, in some sense, met this historical person. For example, there's a wonderful living history portrayer, Nathan Richardson, and he portrays Frederick Douglass. And I was really, really impressed meeting him. Again, it's this sense. So I'm trying my best to convey that. It's, of course, a really high bar, and I'm not saying I can or will achieve that. However, if I can be informative and entertaining, that's also worthwhile. And it really does have a big impact in Indiana for performances. Lafayette, I did out there. It was a wonderful time. I received a very kind compliment that if history was taught always like you presented as in the character, history would be really remembered much more.
Well, that is so really, really true. So, Lafayette's presence, even without speaking, must have been remarkable. In the 18th century, a high ranking officer's posture, his walk, his mounted presence communicated his status and authority long before words were even exchanged. So, how do your acting and writing experience influence the physical choices you make when you bring this young Lafayette to life, embodying that historical stature and authority that he was aiming for as such a young man?
Yes, when we examine a historical person, we really have to think about all aspects of his character. First of all, I'd say he's a successful military commander, and he must have had a commanding presence in some fashion. It was his job to be a general. So, it was his job to stand tall, walk confidently, speak with confidence, and so forth, as well as maintaining charm and I would say a certain reserve, because in the past people interacted with each other more formally and wanted to maintain humility as well. But all of that is just portraying a type of person, not a specific person. But we're thank goodness that there are just countless, there are many portraits of Lafayette that we can study for his dress, his posture, his expression. There are just so many depictions of Lafayette as a historical figure. Other people, for example, George Mason, I believe there's only basically one portrait of George Mason, and that's all we have of him. But Lafayette, there are just countless contemporary and later depictions of Lafayette. And so he also wrote a great deal, and a lot was written about him by his peers. And when we carefully study his memoirs and his letters in their original French versions, that's particularly helped me, because that helps me to understand the way that Lafayette presents himself, not necessarily how people talk about him, how he would present himself to people today. And his personality, that wonderful Lafayette personality, truly comes out in his writing. He's got this obviously optimism, idealism, but it's tempered with pragmatism, and of course charm and a sense of humor as well. And from all of this, I'm trying to create a characterization of this unique person from history.
Wow, he is unique, that's for sure. So, Roy, our members know that you recently returned from a significant visit with our AFL family in France, visiting the very sites where Lafayette was raised, educated, and first inspired. Must have been transformative. What surprised you the most about young Lafayette's daily life, his early struggles, his worldview once you began literally walking in his footsteps across France?
Well, first of all, I really must say that I am eternally grateful for this wonderful visit, this séjour in France. The Oise family who hosted me were the most incredible hosts, and everybody that I encountered were so hospitable to me. Everybody there. This was my very first visit in France. And what I would say to everybody, and this is really true, before these places were just theoretical ideas. I mean, the Hotel de Luxembourg, where Lafayette grew up with his grandfathers and his mother, and of course Chateau de Chavignac, Versailles, where the Hotel de Noailles, where the Collège de Plessis was. These were all just theoretical ideas about Lafayette's youth that I had read about in books, but not actually reality. But now I really feel a lot more comfortable talking about Paris, about Versailles, about Auvergne, Chavignac, and my chateau, and indeed Lafayette's life. I have a personal familiarity with these key places now. It was an incredible honor for the ceremony that we had on the last day. I got to put on my Lafayette uniform and actually welcome the visitors into my home, which was pretty amazing, and walk them through the front door and up the stairs. So that was pretty amazing. And I must say that it's a little bit of a hot take, as they say, but I think that Lafayette has a better view from his front door than Washington does from his back porch there on the road. Lafayette has this view of the entire valley with these rugged volcanoes stretching off to oblivion, which is really quite amazing. So I think the most surprising for me was seeing the Auvergne for myself, and it's just an amazing place. There are these volcanic peaks where these chateaux are perched on there. There are castles all over the place. It's one time we were between. We actually said, my host said, "Oh, there's a chateau. Look at the chateau." And I looked at the chateau over there, and they said, "No, actually look at that chateau." So we were between two chateaux there. And I really understand Lafayette a lot better. This is a place that has always been a home to people who yearn to be free. The Gaulish warriors who Lafayette writes a lot about, that he identified with in their battle against the Roman Empire. And I kind of think that he thought of the Americans, their fight for liberty, as kind of that struggle too. And even more recently, I think they should really make a movie about the free spirit of the French resistance in Auvergne. And there's an amazing story that could be made in a movie where the French resistance actually saved a statue of Lafayette in Le Puy-en-Velay, which was going to be melted down by the Nazis. And they basically brought 70. They first of all tried to take it away on the truck, and then the truck broke down. And then they brought 70 free resistance fighters, and they carried the statue and hid it underneath some hay in a barn. And so without a doubt, this remote and wild region of France really shaped Lafayette. To return, I thought up a little joke, is that the French resistance was often called the Maquis. So they were the Maquis de Lafayette.
Well, there are many people on this call who were able to go and experience the Auvergne last year, and I think we all agree that that's amazing. And we did not know about that story of the statue when we saw it in Le Puy. So we're really happy that you brought that little tidbit back to us. It's going to make us all want to go back again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, okay, on to the next. Well, obviously the deep immersion is just invaluable to being able to, bring this and it apparently did shift your like kind of perspective on everything. So stepping into this role, and particularly with your recent trip, did this like challenge or change your personal understanding of both the history as a concept and the specific history that you're representing?
First of all, this trip gave me more confidence for my portrayals in America, because in France, I was actually sometimes portraying a Frenchman for a French audience, and I'm not French. And the question in the back of my mind was, would the French people accept me as Lafayette? And so the first time that I donned the Lafayette Dragoons of Noailles uniform, it was for a book signing of a graphic novel about Lafayette, the graphic novel by Thomas Marlier and Roman Faure. And it was really fun. It was at the mayor's offices of the 7e arrondissement in Paris. And the moment I walked out of the car, there were some people in the cafe sitting there. They said, "Oh, c'est Napoléon." I said, "En fait, c'est le Marquis de Lafayette." And they really enjoyed that. And so I walked into the book signing, and it is wonderful in French. It is wonderful to see that there is a graphic novel that has been written about me. And, and so they really enjoyed, and the illustrator drew a little caricature there of me in uniform, and the author did. So it was a great first start. It was wonderful. I got to meet up a lot with young people over there. I met up with two groups of young campers who were camped right by the Chateau de Chavignac. I shared a coffee with them. At one of the ceremonies, I was dancing to the music with them. It was really quite amazing. And I presented an American flag to them as Lafayette. And then there was an event at with the U.S. consul in Lyon. And what's amazing about France is that you walk into a building, and then it's just there's the most amazing thing you've ever seen in this building. And so I was walking up the stairs, and oh, here's a big mural of La Fête de la Fédération with Lafayette on his white horse there, and the king taking the oath to the Constitution. And it was just it wasn't even planned. It was just there, and so that was an incredible venue. And I felt like Lafayette arriving in a new country. People were so happy to see me, celebrating my arrival. But of course, what's nice about this character is that it's really not about me. It's about this historical person who we all love, and I love, but who's no longer alive. I'm not the Marquis de Lafayette, but we all try to we keep the memory alive. And so it's a great privilege and an honor to humbly try to portray this historical person. And I hope it's entertaining for people, but also to get them more interested in learning more about Lafayette and all the important historical events that he was involved in this great time. I was grateful for this opportunity to kind of be a goodwill ambassador to France. Kind of felt like Benjamin Franklin a little bit. I didn't have a fur cap. It was too hot.
Well, let's take a little switch here and talking about like the rhythm of 1777. So let's turn to this other fascinating component of your preparation, Roy, your strong musical background. Music played a vital role in the 18th century, from coordinating the military camps to sophisticated aristocratic entertainment. Lafayette arrived speaking very broken English, and he was navigating a world filled with rhythmic drum cadence, and he had come from formal court speech. So, as a musician, how do you use your ear to capture the specific cadence and accent of his 1777 dialogue to find the true rhythm or the voice of Lafayette?
To talk about language, first of all, my father is actually a linguist.
Oh,
And his colleague in linguistics, when I was very young, I was maybe about 7 years old. He asked if I was being raised to be somehow bilingual, and the answer was no. And this critical period means that it's basically essentially impossible to achieve uh, pretty good fluency after a certain age in childhood in another language, a second language. So I started French in my freshman year of high school. I had just Spanish before that, and that's starting very late. And on average, I shouldn't be able at all to achieve great fluency or an accurate pronunciation. But of course, I was very motivated, and I would actually use my skills in music to help me practice French, which is such a musical language. I would sing 1930s Charles Trenet songs in French, copying his pronunciation and rhythm. His songs are great because they're very wordy and rhythmic, but actually, if you take out the melody, it actually replicates the rhythm of how you just say it in French. And when I would talk to French people that I encountered in France, they all agreed that having a musical ear really helps. And speaking French as a second language, portraying this French national hero is certainly indispensable. And musical abilities and language abilities, there's been a lot of research into how they're related. And I think music was really the key that helped me.
Well, beyond the nuance of speech, there's the practical challenge of performance in open environments. So you'll have to create live auditory atmosphere for visitors in open air sites like the Georgetown Landing and the Brandywine Battlefield, which we've spoken about. So how do you perceive using your musical training to project Lafayette's voice and command a crowd effectively in those expansive historical locations?
Well, I would say, first of all, that doing on-stage performances my whole life for music and for acting have made me quite comfortable in front of large crowds. And also, I can project my voice for this sort of thing. Again, with music, with singing, playing instruments, and even French has helped me to project more the area of my vocal cords that I use when I'm speaking in French. Helps me to project a little bit more. I can, it's fun as Lafayette to occasionally do some music performance just for fun, like playing the trombone in New Orleans.
That
And of
was
course,
good.
it has nothing to do with the historical Lafayette, but it's also important to have some fun as well. And music is a language that unites people. I got a chance to play with some fifers and drummers at Versailles, and I was invited to join the local town band in Auvergne,
Oh, wow.
and it was the Almanie de Pouleguet, which is in the little town of Pouleguet, which is down the road. You drive down the road that Lafayette planted all the trees on the side, and then you get to Pouleguet, and there's the Place Lafayette and the Lafayette Road, and then I created a French fife and drum corps, and that was very good because that was not only the music, the soundscape that Lafayette would have heard, but also this whole world of that really opened up a lot of research into the role, more deeper research into the role of the French in the American Revolution. And it's really nice that the PVI Corps can be this musical arm of the American Friends of Lafayette.
True. Well, your insights into bringing Lafayette to life are very compelling. For our members tonight, the story of Lafayette remains incredibly relevant. He left a life of extreme luxury in France to fight for freedom in a foreign nation. As a student yourself, what do you think is the most relatable aspect of his teenage and young adult journey that our audience, and particularly younger generations, can connect with today?
The fact that Lafayette was this teenager and a young adult in this really exciting period of the American Revolution is really relevant to young audiences. Frankly, he acted quite impulsively, without really exactly thinking things through so much. He was disobedient and a willful teenager, but thank goodness for history that he was. And he also has this teenage quality of totally throwing caution to the wind and endangering his own life because he's pursuing this idealistic cause. He has great ideas. He wants to actually put these ideals of his time into reality, and he sees that America is this place where these ideals can be put into reality. I recently got the chance to watch the musical Hamilton for the first time, and it's really done so much to connect people my age with history, to show these young people who had these dreams to change the world. Lafayette and Hamilton were of similar age, and were both like adopted sons of Washington. There are a lot of parallels. I have a friend who's really big into musicals, and I recommended a Lafayette biography to him because he loves Hamilton, and he's learning about Lafayette for the first time, and he's just so amazed by Lafayette's courage to put his ideals in action. In many ways, he's similar to Hamilton as well.
Well, that's a powerful point, and I'm just shocked that it took you this long to see Hamilton, my dear.
I'm shocked too. It kind of scandalized my friends sometimes.
Yeah,
that I
it looks like my camera's gotten a little blurry. Sorry about that. Anyway, so highlighting the timeless aspects of the story, history often remembers the triumphs, but you're playing the before stage of his legendary career, a period of immense learning and growth. So looking at your journey over the past year into this very ambitious project, what has been the biggest learning curve in transitioning from stage acting to this dynamic, interactive world of living history? And I know this isn't the first time you've thought about living history, but this is the big one.
Well, I would say that by great good fortune, I actually am coming with certain attributes that will help me portray young Lafayette. First of all, my age. As it so happens, I'm 250 years and 2 months younger than the historical Lafayette.
Oh my goodness.
And as it so happens, I'm conveniently located in Virginia, and I'll be continuing to be located in Virginia. I'm studying at William and Mary in Williamsburg. And by very good fortune, I had developed French language competency. For that, I happened to enroll in French in high school. I just said, I think I'm going to take French. I was very fortunate to be admitted to the French Governor's School in 2025, which is a 3-week immersion program. That helped me to skip French 4, and I went straight into AP French, which is much more communication skills. And I did well on the French AP exam, and then had another month-long immersion experience this past summer. And then there are ways that I'm going to continue to build on this. For example, I was able to be enrolled in a advanced French class at William and Mary. It's a class on the history of Versailles taught in French. So I thought that would be very helpful as young Lafayette. And I've developed a fluency and a good pronunciation in French despite the odds against it. And then separately, I have experience in actually doing this kind of living history and reenacting already. And from the Fife and Drum Corps, I was coming with this knowledge of period clothing and uniforms. And of course, for my whole life, I was very, very interested in Lafayette. I had a fair amount of knowledge of Lafayette and colonial history. Of course, I'm learning a lot more. And I really do love to look into the early stages of Lafayette, where Lafayette is a teenager, which is something you don't really hear about. All these wonderful anecdotes of Lafayette in France. Acting experience, I practiced memorizing dialogue. There's a lot of dates and facts. And even there's skills that all come together. Either I have a knowledge of period dancing to a certain extent. I was the music director for the school play at my school, which was Pride and Prejudice. And I instructed the other high school students how to do some of the Regency era dancing so we could play the music for them during these scenes.
Good.
But most importantly, I had a genuine love for this, and preparing for this is not a chore, but a dream. It's something that I think of every moment. But I really want to continue improving with everything, to include, of course, horseback riding. I've taken a couple of classes on acting on horseback with a very knowledgeable reenactor, Al Underwood, and I'm going to continue with this at the Equestrian Club at William and Mary.
Wonderful. Well, Roy, thank you so much for these incredible insights into how you're wrapping your brain and yourself around this great task. So before I open the floor to our AFL members for their questions, let's wrap up this prepared segment with this final question here for you. What is the one thing that you hope a modern family attending a historical site takes away after encountering this portrayal of the young Marquis de Lafayette?
Concerning a family with children encountering my portrayal of Lafayette, concerning a portrayal of Lafayette, I have an experience with this. You know, my father, he often tells this story. When I was about 4 years old, and we were at a birthday party. I was at a birthday party for my friend, and there are all these 4-year-olds running around. And another father comes up to my dad, and he says, "Is that your son over there? He's just going on and on about the Marquis de Lafayette." So already I had this love for history and for Lafayette. So I was that child whose life was greatly influenced by discovering Lafayette through living history and experiences. And a teacher or a living history interpreter never knows what impact their lessons may have on their students. So living history, it can be educational or entertaining, or I would say ideally both. There can be a positive impact, be that small or great. And I just intend to portray Lafayette in the best way that I possibly can.
Well, that's beautiful. I just love that. So now the moment that many of you have been waiting for, we'd like to open the floor for questions from our American Friends of Lafayette members and guests.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you so much. I'm going to take over for the Q&A, but
Okay.
before I do, a big round of applause for Elise Forrester. You did a great job. Your questions were fantastic, Elise. I mean, I can't thank you enough for taking this on. I know you worked really hard at it, but you were there the day we discovered him, and I thought the honor should be yours, and you did a fabulous
Thank you.
job. Thank you so,
My
so
honor.
much.
Congratulations. You're making me think.
Pleasure.
It's good.
Made me think. Made me think.
Thank you so much, Elise. Now, before I open it up to questions, I have a question for Roy because I think there's somebody in the audience tonight that influenced you a great deal. You're the person that you met as a first interpreter. Do you want to talk about the first time you met this man?
Yes, the very first time I met Lafayette, it was, of course, Mark Schneider. And that was a deep, as I mentioned, it was a deep and profound impact on me. Mark, you will always be Lafayette for me. So it is, and throughout the years, getting to meet you and to see you as Lafayette, it was so formative. It really encouraged me to explore all these wonderful this history about Lafayette and about the French Alliance, and really I'm so looking forward to being there as a student in Williamsburg and to getting to see you perform there in Williamsburg for many years to come. It's so amazing. So I just want to thank you so much, and thank you for your amazing continuing work to bring Lafayette to life.
You honor me, Roy, and congratulations on your wonderful success. And we look forward to all of us seeing what you can do with Lafayette and what you've already done with him. So thank you for the shout out, and we'll see you in Williamsburg. And
Yes.
see you
I
soon.
don't know
So
if you mentioned that he'll be going to William and Mary College, so he'll be a neighbor of Roy's. Now, Mark, can I put you on the spot and ask you to please ask a question of Roy in French?
Ah, bon.
Monsieur le Marquis, de quelle région venez-vous en France?
Moi, je viens de la région de l'Auvergne.
Ah, voilà.
C'est
Quelle ville?
la ville de Chavagnac. J'ai un
Ah,
château là-bas. C'est le
château de
château
Chavagnac.
qui appartient à ma grand-mère.
C'est dans le sud de France?
Oui, c'est juste là, dans la France, dans
Le
l'Hexagone,
Massif
comme on dit.
central. Voilà.
Oui.
Voilà. Voilà.
Could you tell us what you guys were talking about?
No.
I asked him a rather simple question about where do you come from in France? And he very eloquently described that he was from the Auvergne in the south of France. And I asked, what city? And he said Chavagnac. So he's very impressive.
That's great. Thank you so much. Now let me remove the spotlights for everybody so we're all on the same screen. And there you go. And so now I'd like to open it up to anybody who would like to ask Roy a question. You can raise your hand or unmute and start talking. We don't have real rules here. The only thing I ask is that I'm taping the Phillies game and nobody tell me the score. Okay. So that's all I need from you guys. But with that being said, please, let's open it up. You got to have some questions. Allison Guinness has a question.
Well, I don't really have a question. I just want to say a friend of mine was in Paris for July 4th. And when she came home, I asked her what she had done while she was there. And she showed me a picture. And I said, oh, my goodness, that's Roy. You met my friend as Lafayette in Paris. And, and now I have her hooked on Lafayette.
It was a great time to be an American in Paris. It was July 4th was
wonderful.
Yeah, it was the best July 4th of my life.
I wish I had been there too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Aubrey Mitchell. Now, real quick, Aubrey has not missed a Zoom call yet. And Aubrey got straight A's last year in school. I want a big round of applause for Aubrey. And as a reward for getting straight A's, her parents took her on a Lafayette trip to Washington and Philadelphia. And we had a great talk today about that. So I'm really excited to hear what Aubrey's question is. Aubrey, take it away, girl.
Hello again. I just wanted to say, before I ask my question, I ride horses. I'm teaching myself French, and I do theater at school.
Perfect. It's great.
Sounds like Adrian to me.
So my question is, if you could choose any other historical figure to reenact, like along with Lafayette, who would you choose?
That's a good one.
That's a very good question. I'll tell you something that I've been really interested in is that I actually have my great-great-grandfather was actually he was 19 years old. It's kind of hard to figure out how old he was, but he was in England, and he came from England in 1864 and enlisted in the Union Army in Ohio, and he was in the 171st Ohio. Was captured. I was released, re-enlisted, was in the 177th Ohio, became a sergeant. And so I think if I were to portray another, and actually I have at several occasions put on a Ohio State jacket as was worn by the Ohio regiments, and used an accent from the county of England that he was from, and portrayed my ancestor.
Oh, that's so cool.
Good question, Aubrey. I love that question. Okay, who can beat that one? Any other question? John Scourge, board member, AFL board member, John Scourge.
Go Red Sox.
Boo.
At least I have one friend in Alan. Yeah. Roy, and this will be a past and future question. Have you, as Lafayette, performed with other historical interpreters, either playing like Jefferson or Madison or so on? And if not, in the future, who would you like to perform with as Lafayette?
Who I'd like to perform with? Well, of course, I'm gaining experience as Lafayette. I did have a chance in Massachusetts. Actually, no, it was in New Hampshire. It was on the same day. It was a quick turnaround. That I performed with an actor who was portraying John Stark, who was very influential at the Battle of Bunker Hill. And so that was a very, very interesting experience to do that. Of course, I think it would be really interesting as far as who would I like to perform with. I mean, of course, all of the major people in Lafayette's life, starting from South Carolina, the Baron de Kalb, and Washington, of course, Hamilton, and everybody that's involved. Benjamin Franklin. It would be cool to do something like a Silas Dean Lafayette thing. So there's just a wealth of opportunities that could be done.
Okay, thank you. Good questions, John. Thank you. Go Phillies. All right. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands raised. I see a lot of great comments in the chat, but no real questions. Oh, Kat Smith has a question.
I think Joan was ahead of me. Do you want to go, Joan?
Look at Joan next, I promise.
Okay. I just had a quick question for Roy. Hot seat. What are you looking for? Which date coming up next year? Which is the date you're most excited to do?
Okay. It's between. I think it's between knocking on the door of Independence Hall, or getting wounded at Brandywine.
Brandywine.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to riding up with Jima, whoever will be there, and my aide, and jumping off. So I've been already looking into sashes that are not are disposable, so that they get bloody. So
Now, I feel like the sash we kind of need to keep and maybe like have like an auction for it.
maybe or none.
Good question, Kat. And for those of you who don't know, Kat is our social media extraordinaire. I'm sure everybody on the screen knows that, so I'm not even going to worry about that. All right, Joan, do you want to unmute and ask a question?
Okay. So you've hinted a little bit about this. Next year will be a big year for you. Not only will you be having a major role as Lafayette, you'll be a first-year person in college, which is also a big year. You've given a couple hints, but how do you see integrating those two major events?
Well,
you better mention me, Roy. You better mention Chuck here.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Chuck Schwab, and then everything. Yeah, no. Well, I would say that first of all, kind of this choice to go to William and Mary, I had been already mulling over, like, oh, that's really, really cool. It's in Williamsburg, but this really kind of opened up a lot of doors, and I really wanted to stay here in historic Virginia and to plunge more deeply into colonial history, and also to be located all around all these wonderful, amazing, a lot of the AFL folks here in Virginia and Maryland, of course, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all over the place, especially Chuck.
Well, no, that's not what I wanted you to say. What I will say on your behalf is that I talked to Doug and Martha Wolf several times a week, and we have made a commitment to them that Roy's education is the most important thing here. And so we are scheduling all of our events on weekends. Luckily, especially in the first year, they're drivable from William and Mary, but we will not be having any weekday events because I don't want Roy to miss school. Now, Roy did mention to me that he's going to try to schedule classes that do not take place on Fridays.
Yes.
So I am very excited about that. I'm going to tell you, Roy, but that gives us an extra day.
Roy,
did I lose you? Where'd you go?
I'm here.
Can anybody see Roy?
Yeah, we see him.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. I see him now.
Yeah,
guys, answer that, Roy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I always say is that it's really handy that all the battles took place during the summer in the American Revolution, because it was the campaign season.
Yeah, that's true. So he'll be missing.
They had the good sense to schedule all these things then.
Right. Yeah, well, luckily, it's interesting. The Battle of Brandywine, the 250th anniversary happens to be a Saturday, so that works out perfectly.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to heal for class by Monday.
Yes.
Because
the ball didn't touch either bone or nerve. So.
No, it's perfect. Just a flesh wound. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
Now, you do fall.
I'll write letters to all my friends at college. Like, I've been wounded.
Now we are going to have an event in Bethlehem.
Yeah, Chuck, may I say
Diane,
something
about
that?
Huh?
I know that Roy said that he really liked the idea, portraying Lafayette wounded at Brandywine, but I think it's going to be much more exciting to be healing in Bethlehem. You will have a couple of wonderful nurses, and I think it will be a very exciting event.
I think that'll be the most relaxing portrayal for me because I'll just lay
you're
on
gonna
my
be
back.
laying in a bed in the sun in all weekend.
Yes, everybody just has to come in and see me, so I don't have to walk in anywhere. So
Well, Diane is on our Bethlehem committee, and I'm very excited about it. And we
That's gonna be
actually
really
have
cool.
somebody on our Bethlehem committee coming up on a speaker series, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Now, where did Joan go? Joan
Here.
Mitchie. Did you have? Okay, you had a question, Joan.
Well, that was it. But a little related is it sounds like some of the classes you're signing up for also relate because you mentioned about Versailles and French. So I don't know, it's kind of early for a major, although I think they're pushing kids to pick those early these days. But it sounds like you're targeting certain classes as well.
I am targeting certain classes. It's not, of course, what's good about William & Mary is that they give you some time to decide, but I'm thinking of doing a double major with, I initially was thinking of doing a history major and a music major, and I still may do that. But another option is something called global studies, where it's like history, but you also have, you can study language as well. Because I want to do a double major in history and music and then have a minor in French, but they said that wasn't possible. So I trying to work that in, sneak that in.
I want everybody on the screen to know another thing that Roy has not talked about that he's doing, and just warms my heart that he's doing this, but Roy is going to be in the ROTC as well.
Oh my!
So he's going to be
Wow.
a very, very busy man, young man. And I wasn't thrilled to hear that he joined the ROTC as a selfish person. I'm worried about all the time, but as an American, then you know what? Mark Schneider served in the Army, and so you're following footsteps that are significant, Roy, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, it's also another way to understand a side of Lafayette as an officer in the United States Army.
There you go. How about that? I love it. Who has more questions?
I would just like to say one thing. Marjorie Biddle.
Hi, Marjorie. Good to see you.
I can't find my raise hand button. As an alum of the college, Roy, I'd like to say bienvenue à Guillaume et Marie.
Ah, merci.
I'm delighted that you've selected the college. I think it'll be among the best 4 years of your life, plus portraying Lafayette. And you're right, there's a critical period for being able to learn all the sounds of a language. And I have to say, although you didn't get started early either, as most Americans don't, your accent is superb. Absolutely terrific. And welcome to William & Mary.
Thank you. Good tribe.
Yeah.
All right. I think Kat Smith has another question or comment.
I was just reading what was in the comments here, so we don't miss those. There's two questions, and I'll just read both of them. If you were to recommend one Lafayette biography as a must-read as a young person, what would it be? And then what part of the costume makes you feel like Lafayette the most?
Those are great questions.
Those are perfect questions. Well, first of all, for the book recommendation, while I don't always agree with his take on Lafayette, the classic biography, it's an unfinished biography, but the biography by Louis Gottschalk, which I have a big bicentennial edition here that was given me by the great Bunny Wise out in Indiana, and it's really great because he really cites his stuff. Gottschalk includes a lot of detail that doesn't make it into the other biographies, and that's been helping me, especially with the really young Lafayette portrayals, because all I have is before, because I've been doing Lafayette in 1776. He's not even signed the contract yet with Dean, so having this material to talk about has been indispensable, and to see that. And then as far as I really love the question about the costume, because for me getting into historical attire is kind of where it clicks, and I can become this character. I'm gonna say it's a combination of things. When you wear the wig, the hat, the sword, and the boots, then you're Lafayette. And that's those are the things that are most crucial. Obviously, it's the uniform is excellent too, but it's important to try to look like this painting stepping out of history, which is
Thank you. Good question, Kath. Thank you, Roy. All right, we're going to take one more question, and I see in the upper left-hand corner of my screen a hand raised, Guibe. I muted you. You should unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, yeah. As a French native and knowing that Roy will represent Lafayette when he was young, I have a question for Roy. When you went to Chavagnac, can you imagine you were the young Lafayette from the nobility, surrounded by the farmer and peasant, and playing with them, certainly like the chief of the band, and giving orders, and also trying to fight and kill the beast of Gévaudan?
Alors, tout d'abord, monsieur, il faut le dire, c'est un plaisir de faire votre connaissance. It's wonderful to
Merci
meet
beaucoup.
you. Yes, it was splendid to ride in car from Paris to the Auvergne to Chavagnac and to enter this entirely different world. This world that has in many ways not changed since the time of Lafayette, and we drove past the hill of Gergovie, where Vercingetorix defended the Gaulish town against the Romans, and it was really amazing just to be there at Chavagnac, to be outside the front door, and they said, "Oh yeah, right over there is the foray of the Gévaudan," and so it's over there. It's really over there, and I got to see a statue of the Beast of Gévaudan. And but yeah, you really do feel this, that you're totally in Lafayette's world, because you're really I got a chance to visit Langeac, which is, for example, there's Lafayette's grist mill there, as Lafayette's where Lafayette, and it's kind of like how Washington has this grist mill that's down the road. Lafayette bought Langeac. He was invited to buy Langeac, and there's this wonderful local history that's preserved in a poem called La Belle Journée, which recounts Lafayette's triumphal arrival into Langeac as Marquis de Langeac. And really to visit all these places. He was Baron of Vissac, to go to Vissac and visit the little church where Lafayette's grandfather is buried, and to imagine Lafayette riding over these mountains on his horse to visit his various chateaux. I think it's funny. He didn't necessarily need to buy any hotel reservations because he just had chateau everywhere, so he would have a place to sleep everywhere.
And my last question will be, so when you were young in Chavagnac, you have one cousin, and you were raised by your mother, your aunt, and your grandmother. So do you think that gives you certainly the courage to show that you were a guy and you want to fight Gévaudan, and this idea about having an adventure to try to make the world better?
Well, Lafayette basically begins his memoirs with this anecdote about the Beast of Gévaudan to illustrate how even from an early age, he has the sense that I've been entrusted with a responsibility to protect those entrusted to my care. And so even when he sets out with his wooden sword, inspired by all his noble ancestors, to slay the Beast of Gévaudan, and even writes a letter to defend his family's honor when the newspaper correctly prints that some hunter named Lafayette ran away from the beast. And so but also there's an influence of his grandmother and his aunts, and also the daughter of one of these aunts, that it was his playmate, and also the children in Chavagnac. But then also when he leaves Chavagnac, that experience of not being the center of attention, and going to Paris, where he's a stranger in some ways, and adapting to that.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, sir. Those good questions. All right, I'm going to take it away from here, folks. Roy, I'm going to ask you a couple of quickies. Number one, do you plan on dyeing your hair red?
I've been thinking about this question, and it was great that you can see little locks of his hair at the Chateau de Chavignac, and it is indeed red. I think perhaps with the ROTC haircut that's a little bit shorter, I won't be able to. So I'll probably be wearing a wig, but
Okay.
that's certainly.
Now, and also, are you prepared for some premature male pattern baldness? Because that's going to happen
I've been
as
thinking
well.
about. I was at
Yeah.
the work on the Lafayette receding
Yeah,
hairline.
yeah, you got it. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's fantastic. Now, Roy, before we say goodnight, when Elise met you that very first time, we saw that instrument behind you. You want to bring that out and talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is an old instrument that was invented in France, actually, and it's called le serpent, the serpent. And it was originally used to accompany church singing, but then over the years it became popular in using for dance music and for military music as well. And so I acquired and I taught myself to play this instrument to accompany our little trio of musicians for the play Pride and Prejudice at our school. And I also use it to play in the fife and drum corps to show that side of French military music. So here's a little. Yeah, there's
Thank
probably
you,
some
Roy.
settings that would allow you to hear it better, but I'll play it for you sometime when I see you.
Well, we've heard you play it. You're amazing. I want to thank Elise Forrester very, very much. You are so fantastic. You'll do more interviews for me, Elise, I'm sure. Thank you. I want to thank Roy Wulf. He has a couple of gigs in 2026, but the big day is June 13th, 2027, when we honor the 250th anniversary of Lafayette arriving on American soil for the very first time. We have in our presence Joseph Volpe, who's the committee chair for our time in South Carolina. Joseph's working really hard to make sure that we do a great job down there. We already have 60 hotel rooms booked for that weekend, so we're expecting over 150 people there, Roy, and the locals from Georgetown. We expect over 1,000 people to watch you arrive that day on June 13th. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to see everybody. I'd like Roy Wulf to stay on the phone. I'd like Shirley Christie to stay on. And I'd like Doug Wolf to stay on. Everybody else, I'd really appreciate you to have a great rest of your week. And Viva Lafayette!
Viva Lafayette!
Right.